Hi guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another Retro RPG and the end of another poll. And it's a razor tight one this week because even after I started to prepare this video, I got everything ready, a final vote came in and made it a tie. But unfortunately that last vote for Babylon 5 only makes it a tie, and I'd started preparing everything, so I have declared the winner to be Dark Heresy with some 29% of the votes, so a very popular choice indeed. Now, unfortunately, Spycraft, which was also added along with Babylon 5 last week, drops out, which kind of surprises me because we did the Stargate role-playing game, which is based on Spycraft, and it was a massive success in the poll when it went up. But Spycraft itself, not so popular. Oh well, I guess it'll get a chance to return in a losers poll at some point in the future. But in replacing these two in the poll going on to the next week, so as well as Babylon 5 carrying on, as well as Rift's Rulebook 5 tracks in the NGR, and as well as Unknown Armies, which still remains in for another week, we are putting in Denver City of Shadows, Shadowrun sourcebook. Now, I'd considered doing this way back in January before I started the polls, but I'd kind of just done some Shadowrun stuff, so I didn't bother. But I was reading recently, and Denver has been radically changed in the latest versions of Shadowrun. The entire history that they built in a kind of East Berlin, a Berlin type chic to it, where the city is divided between different governments. So there's various quarters there run by different countries. Has totally gone, and now the city's run by a dragon. So that's an interesting change, but totally removes this this box set from the mythos, which is sad because I really like it. And I've also put in Werewolf the Dark Ages. I've covered Werewolf the Dark Ages before when I did a video on Vampire the Dark Ages, but since it only got mentioned for less than 30 seconds in only a 5-minute video I did on Vampire the Dark Ages, I think it's worthwhile revisiting because it is a lovely game and a lovely setting. In fact, I think I might want to revisit Vampire the Dark Ages and do something a bit better, because that was only when I was a few videos into doing these, so it was far less professional, and I don't think I gave the game a decent chance, because as I said, the entire video was only 5 minutes long. But anyway, let's go over to the desktop and have a look at Dark Heresy. So, this is Dark Heresy, the 2008 role-playing game by Black Industries, which is the publishing arm of Games Workshop. And a second edition for this came out from Fantasy Flight Games in 2014, but I don't have that one, so I don't know how much the rules changed and how different a game it is, or whether it was just a direct reprint of these rules. But this is a role-playing game in the Warhammer 40k universe. Something I personally have been waiting since 40k came out, because I've told the story before of me going into the game store in my local town when I was 15, 16, however old I was, and wanting to buy a role-playing game. And the game that was new, that everybody was talking about, was Warhammer 40k, and I didn't really understand that that was a war game. It just looked really, really cool, so I grabbed it, only to find out later that while I was extremely glad to have a copy, it wasn't really what I was looking for. So I went back a week later and I bought Judge Dredd. Games Workshop got a lot of money out of me that time. But I've been waiting because 40k itself was, while a war game, it was so nearly being a role-playing game. You know, the original 40k Rogue Trader, you actually had a games master. You had your two players fighting a battle, or more if you were having more sides in the battle. But there was a games master as well. And you would have monsters and things which could be introduced to the battles to spice things up, which would be under the control of the games master. A very, very different type of war game to the ones I think we're all more familiar with now. But Dark Heresy came out and is basically Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 2nd edition, but in space. They took the updated rules they'd done from Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay and they transplanted them to the 40k universe, which is great because I was very much down on them updating the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay rules until I looked through them not that long ago and realised what a brilliant job they did. It's fantastic. Anyway, let's have a look at the back cover. Role-playing in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. You're an acolyte in the service of the Emperor's Inquisition. You stand in the front line of a great and secret war where your duty is to hunt out the foul stench of heresy, the vile alien, and the twisted influence of chaos. You will tread where others fear, venture into distant planets, ancient space hulks, and unsavory depths of the hive cities. You will never know fame nor reward, yet if you stand resolute, your deeds will be whispered to the God Emperor of mankind, and your name will be revered for millennia. Fast character creation to get you into the game quickly, followed by a lifetime of possibilities with an expanded advanced careers system. Dynamic rules for all eventualities that let you handle everything from social interaction to deadly fast-paced combat, psykers and psychic powers to insanity and mutation. Comprehensive background on the Acolytes sector, the official setting for Dark Heresy, written by best-selling Warhammer 40k novelists Dan Abnett and Ben Counter. A galaxy of guns to equip your acolytes, from lasguns to inferno pistols, chainswords to power blades. Picture players straight into the midst of dark events with a complete adventure to get you started. The Dark Heresy core rulebook contains everything you need to start your adventure in the Warhammer 40k universe. And it does. It's a very nicely presented book. They're using artwork from throughout the 40k stuff, and Games Workshop has had such brilliant artists. So we open up the cover and we get a very lovely map of the Calixtus sector. I don't know how much you really need star maps. I've questioned that in Traveller 2300 and MegaTraveller recently, because do I need to know where these stars align? But it's a nice thing to have. We flick in a nice Inquisition logo, and then we're into the table of contents, including contents of the sidebars. So little hints, which you will often find rules updates and pieces of information in, are all listed. So it's a very easy to search rulebook. We start off with the history. So it is the 41st millennium, the war for the soul of mankind. Then what is a role-playing game? All the basic stuff you generally get, breaking down what's in each chapter. I'm going to try and flip through this fairly quickly because it is a heavy book and I don't want to go on for ages and ages, but I will pause on certain sections. So an example of play there, character creation. So you create your acolytes. Now this is somewhat like the fantasy roleplay system. We've got background information, so instead of races, we've got what kind of world you're from, so a feral world, hive world, which are the big city worlds in the 40k universe, imperial worlds, voidborn, you were born on a starship actually travelling through hyperspace. You've got your generate statistics, so rolling for your stats. And then you've got your career paths. Because unlike Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, where you can veer between the careers, and you can go from being a peddler to being an assassin in a few steps, taking totally different. Dark Heresy takes you down a path. So we've got the general types here: the adepts, the arbitrators, the assassins, the clerics, the guardsmen, the imperial psykers, scum and tech priests. And we've got a section of information on each of them. Sanctioning side effects, because if you're a psyker, then you've had operations to make you useful. Got fate points, wounds, just the attributes. Bringing your character to life, so their appearance, their age, whether they've got tribal tattoos because they're for a feral world, what class they are from a hive world, just background information. Divination, what's your personality like, more questions to which only the player can answer. We've got names, so various choices of names to build up from the different statuses, whether you're from primitive, low or high class. Example character sheet pointing out everything. And then we're on to the career paths. So explaining roughly what they are, character advancements and how you go through things. And then we go on to adepts. And we can see that instead of the massively branching web of careers you get in fantasy roleplay, This is just a path, and as you get experience levels, you can get access to the next career. So, up to 500 experience, you are an archivist if you're an adept, and you can get access to these advances to spend your experience on. So you can increase skills, you can increase attributes, but only within this block for the costs that are listed. And then when you've got 500 experience, you get access to the next. You go up to a scrivener, and you get access to all these advances as well. You always can go back and buy ones from previous, and certain ones you can only buy a certain number of times. I believe some mention when you can buy more. And we have all the advances as you go up through. And we've got arbitrators, and you can see from the skill paths, at certain points it branches off. So at 6,000 experience, the arbitrator decides whether they want to become a proctor or an intelligencer. And that will, of course, define what different skills they get access to. We've got the assassins, which break up from assassins to death adepts or free blades. We've got clerics, who break up into confessors or exorcists. Guardsmen, who break up actually into 3 paths. They become, once they're veterans, they become assault veterans, lieutenants, or scouts. Taking the middle one takes you up through captains to commanders, as your character becomes more advanced in rank as well as skills. You've got the Imperial Psykers, which break up to Savant, Militant, and Scholar Materium. Obviously, changing the abilities they get access to probably more drastically than the others, because it notes that you may take these talents up to 3 times at this rank. So certain ones you can buy multiple times. We've got Scum, who become cutters or fixers. A lot of the book is going into the career paths here because it is a large part of the advancement system, which allow your characters to become customized as you increase in level. And tech priests become technomancers or mech deacons. So let's carry on through. We've got skills, which there's a lot of. As in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, there's a large list of skills, but these are more suited to a science fiction type background. So what's that? Science. Okay, that was a difficult one to pronounce for me. Tripped over my own tongue. Secret tongue, scrutiny, contortionist, common law. There's various skills, and most characters get access to these. And if we carry on through, we get to the talents, which in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 2nd edition and this are the extra abilities. They're basically more like feats in Dungeons & Dragons than skills. In original Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, everything was bundled in together under skills. So you could gain special abilities, experience costs could drop because you had a certain skill. But they split those off into talents in 2nd edition. A very wise choice, one of the reasons why I do like 2nd edition a lot. And increased them. So the special abilities of most of the classes come under talents. So we've got a massive list of the different abilities here that you gain access to and what they do, how they work. And everyone has a prerequisite. So even if you get access to it from your career, you can not necessarily access the individual ability unless your attributes match up to it. Anyway, lots of talents here, and then on to the armory. And I do love the armory in this. If we flick onto the weapons here, I adore any game which gives you a detailed sketch of what each weapon looks like, because I think that influences how you play so much. Whether you want a laser sniper rifle, or you're carrying something much heavier, an auto pistol or a stub revolver, really adds a lot of flavour to how your character is going to play. Although, I have to say, I was always a fan of the Rogue Trader version of the bolter, the bolt gun, which had a very short barrel. It basically cut off as soon as the magazine ends. I liked that design because it was totally different to any other game. whereas this just looks more like a typical sci-fi gun. But it's got illustrations for all the weapons. I've got to pay them high praise here. Very nice, so you can see what everything looks like. Big thumbs up from me. What else we got? So we've got armor, so it goes through the different types of armor. Now, I would have liked if there was some more illustrations of that, but c'est la vie, you can't have everything. There are different types of equipment here, going from multi-keys, manacles, demolition charges. We go on to services, medical care, and cybernetics. Now, that is a gorgeous picture. The Vitruvian Man by Leonardo da Vinci, but with cybernetics. And I do love that picture. And I have to comment that it's been lifted out of the Inquisitor game, where it looked absolutely fabulous. But in this book, where it's deep in the gatefold and you lose so much of the centre of the character, I'm so annoyed. Such a beautiful picture ruined by splitting it over 2 pages. But anyway, we go through all the cybernetics and we detail them. And then we're on to psychic powers. How they work, the different abilities, perils of the warp. Psychic stench, inspiring aura. Basically lots of battle type abilities, but some interesting ones thrown in there which will help you in role-playing. Psychomancy, telekinetics, catch projectiles. What we've got, psychic blade, telekinesis. You can see how these would come in. Beastmaster, dominate, inspire. Then we're into the playing the game section. So, how to make skill tests, characteristic tests. Assistance, roll of fate. Combat overview, going through the initiative system. Surprise. How to do actions. Standard stuff here, how to make attacks, scatter. Really going to flip through here. Again, because it's based on Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, we've got critical hits, which have a very limited range of critical hits, which is nice. I much prefer more detailed ones, but I am a big fan of critical hit tables to add some spice to combat. So, while it's not the best implementation I've ever seen, thumbs up for including it, sorry. Damage and healing. Movement, climbing, all your standard role-playing stuff. And then we're on to the Games Master section, which lays out how to run Dark Heresy, what the premise of the Inquisition is, and how the players will fit within that. Themes in Dark Heresy, how to keep the tone of the game right. We're on a mission from the God Emperor. So, laying out exactly how Dark Heresy in the 40k universe is different from most science fiction. Xenos amongst us for glory or gain. How to award experience points. Interactions. Fear and damnation. Insanity. All important stuff within a Warhammer type background where characters can just go crazy during play. Corruption. Then we're on to the Dark Powers, so the Chaos Gods. We've got Khorne, Tzeentch, Slaanesh, and Nurgle. Detailed out somewhat here, but more going into the servants and the cultist side of things, which the players would be more likely to be dealing with. We've got life in the Imperium, so breaking down how the Empire itself operates, because for a galactic power, the Imperium of Man is very fragmented, ancient, and pretty strange. So we go through the types of planets. Hive worlds, agri-worlds, forge worlds, developing worlds, feudal worlds, feral worlds, shrine worlds, quarantined worlds, and war zones. Got planetary governments. Going through Chartist captains who explore the galaxy, navigators, mutants who help them navigate through warp space. Talking about threats to humanity. All great stuff. Demons, Xenos, rebellions. All the reasons why the Inquisition will be sending out your group of players to deal with a problem. So we've got detailing war, because in the future there is only war. So we've got the Imperial Guard, the Navy, the Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines, the Grey Knights, the Death Watch. We've got the Cult of the Emperor, because the big religion in the Imperium of Man is worship of the God Emperor himself. Detail of the breakdown of the Inquisition. So the different military that they can bring into play. So if your players discover there's some big alien invasion going on, you know, they can call in the Sisters of Battle, they can call in reinforcements, the Order Malleus, the Demon Hunters, the Order Xeno, the Alien Hunters. Different factions within it, traditions, customs, there's so much here. And then we've got a big section which breaks down the Calixis sector, setting you up with a really good start play. So how to navigate around it, a detailed map of the stars, different planets. Again, Ambulon, another planet, who controls it, the main city, the wilderness around the city. Just really detailing the sector out and giving the games master and players somewhere to start playing the game, instead of just presenting an entire universe and expecting them to find something within that. It breaks it down and targets you a bit more. And of course, adventures and add-ons for the game will be based towards this area of space as well. What we got? Calaxian Concave, Tyrantin Cabal, Comus the Tyrant Star. We've got different Inquisitors, so the big bosses of the Inquisition in that sector, the people you might see once in a while who will command your squad around and scare you by being way powerful. Aliens, heretics, and antagonists. So we've got different creatures and monsters. This is basically the bestiary here. So we've got a list of their abilities and their mutations, and then we're on to sort of characters. So bounty hunters, cult fanatics, dissolute noble, entertainer. Just lots of NPCs for the Games Master to use. I did like the title of the Heretic for a tech priest who has become a heretic. Nice use. Witches, tech adepts, just detailing out. We've got Bestial and the Alien, so we've got some monsters here. I would have liked to have seen things from the original 40k rulebook, so like the Amble and other creatures, but you can't have everything. As I've said, it is a fairly heavy book, so they've had to cut some stuff out. Beasts of Burden, From Beyond, so different spirits and things from warp space. Horrors, demon hosts, plague bearers. Demon host abilities, so they're random abilities. And we're finishing off with an adventure called Illumination. So I'll skip through that as I don't want to detail it too much. It's a short adventure, gets your players into the game and where they should be within the Inquisition. Audience with the Abbot. Horrors in the Heights. Principal characters encountered. So lots of role-playing opportunities within the adventure. Plenty of boxed off text, so the Games Master doesn't have to think too much in setting up scenes. You can just read something out and see where it goes from there. And some NPCs and creatures for the adventure itself. And then we're on to the index at the end. Especially good because we have an index of tables here. So when you want to look up multiple hits table, you can see exactly where it is. You don't have to look up multiple hits in the index and hope that the table's somewhere within that. Character sheet, which is very pretty indeed. What else is coming out for Dark Heresy? Obviously long out by now. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 2nd edition. And essential reading, so the novels for the 40k universe, which would be very useful, especially as they're by Dan Abnett, who helped create the background for this game. And inside the back cover, we have another of the copy of the Calixis sector map. So that is Dark Heresy. I tried to keep it short, but I've been rambling on for quite a while. It's a lovely, lovely game. The rules are rock solid 2nd edition Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. It's well targeted. I consider this to be an absolute success for the 40k role-playing game. I was very skeptical when it came out because I couldn't see how you would balance things like Space Marines. But you just don't have them. You don't let players be Space Marines. They're way too powerful. You don't get to be them. It's a simple decision to make. although it might annoy some of your players who think they're going to be wandering around as super beings. But Space Marines don't fit in terribly well to role-playing. They are much more massive than humans, and they're very much more under control of the Imperium of Man because there are so few of them. But anyway, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough. So thank you very, very much for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment down below, as it does do me massive favours with the YouTube algorithm. I really do appreciate it. But please be kind about that. But always, most of all, you look after yourselves. And I'll catch you later. Bye now.